it's Marley from the Energy Boutique with your energy forecast for Monday, June 19th. So the moon is in her place of power in Cancer all day. The moon rules over Mondays, and so we can kind of expect this to be a little bit of an emotional roller coaster ride. A lot of that is because we're still in the new moon window, definitely sitting in that energy, pressurizing the mental plane. But the moon in Cancer is providing us an opportunity to drop some of the thoughts and ideas and revelations down into the heart space, kind of sit with it, really realize where it is that we have intuitive callings, intuitive impulses to push us in one form or the other in a different direction other than the direction that our mental plane has been taking us. Of course, the mental plane is all cluster effed with all this Gemini energy, just rapidly processing thoughts and shoulda, coulda, wouldas and the what ifs and the variables and everything else in between. And because we've been kind of stuck in the cerebral land of thought, we haven't really been bringing our physical bodies into the equation. And of course, we need to consider the physical body because our emotions are the internal compass that will provide us the insight, the direction, the guidance that we need to get on the right path. So the moon in Cancer, very emotional, super hypersensitive. We're a little bit withdrawn. We need to be introverted. We need to focus on the craziness, on the chaos that we've been feeling, and learn to stabilize within our inner realm, really showing us where it is that we have to return back to the basics of our needs. And we really have to put a lot of thought and a lot of emotional energy into figuring out what it is that we have to build in our lives, foundation-wise, in order to provide us the safety, security, the stability that we're currently lacking. So there's 9 different aspects here today. 6 of them will involve the moon. The moon in Cancer will make an interaction with Venus right out of the gate. And of course, Venus being the goddess of love, beauty, worth, pleasure, money, who's in this Leo energy, the heart and soul of the zodiac, she's definitely taking stock. She's taking inventory, if you will. She's changing her mind about who and what are bringing her the most happiness, the most pleasure, the most joy, the most safety, the most security. And in a lot of ways, realizing who is not or what is not providing those things to us. Now, Venus being in this Leo energy, as you've been hearing me say, is going to be activating our heart chakras in big ways. We're currently in the disassembly, the dismantling, the deconstruction mode, if you will, of recognizing what isn't so happy, what isn't so joyful, what isn't so, I'm going to say, safe and secure in our emotions, in our relationships, in our physical realms. We need to understand what isn't working in order to kind of realize where we have to come up with an alternative, a different solution, if you will. We're still in Gemini season. This is what the season has been about. Thoughts, realizing what isn't working in order to come up with a different way, a different method, a different alternative. We're still very much in the questioning period. Again, days away from the summer solstice. That will be an absolute game changer, not only for our thoughts, not only for our emotions, not only for our energy, but for the path and the direction, the choices, the decisions that we will be making in moving forward. The moon in Cancer energy, typically speaking, very nostalgic, very connected to the past, very hesitant to let go of old attachments. Venus, on the other hand, in Leo energy, recognizing where she's got to boss up, be bold, be brave, courageous in order to cut the cord with some of the elements of the past in order to free her heart space up, to realign with her higher mission, with her soul's potential, with what it is that she's now being called to pursue. The moon will then make a positive interaction with the true node. And of course, the true node is our soul path, our destiny point. This is a positive interaction, which does kind of lead us to believe that we're making some kind of progress. We're realizing either mentally or emotionally what it is that we need to do in order to move forward. And again, just being in the new moon in Gemini energy, this has been more about where it is that we need to create distance from old constructs, old relationships, old attachments, old connections to the past. So whatever's been really cluster effery, confusing, really applying a lot of pressure to you, where the pain, where the struggle, where the control issues are, where you just can't stand this anymore, That is the motivating force, my friend, that we all need right now in order to get our asses into gear, to boss us up to new levels of taking action and cutting the connections with the past. So in one form or the other, over the last couple of days, you should have realized what isn't working, what I can no longer stand, no longer tolerate, no longer experience anymore. This isn't working. We have to come up with a better way. There's got to be a different alternative to the current circumstances that are not very happy. Through that realization, we're coming up with, well, what if we tried this? What if we tried that? What if we did this? Those what ifs are still the Gemini energy. We're dropping it down into the heart space where the moon in Cancer is ruling, and we are coming up with an aha moment, even if it's a little one, on where it is that we can make a change in actually moving forward. The moon is going to interact with Mercury. Mercury, of course, ruler of the mental plane, ruler of communication, information, how it is that we express ourselves in his place of power in Gemini energy, still in his rulership over Gemini season and in his rulership over the new moon energy that we're currently sitting in. Now, this is our heart space, the moon, and our head space, Mercury, trying to get on the same page. Now, I'm not saying that they're fully aligned, but we're in agreement. We are having a conversation between parts of self that we are finally starting to get on the same page with. This is definitely going to open us up to be a little bit more communicative, being able to either express ourselves, what it is that we've been holding in, what it is that we've been biting our tongue on, what it is that needs to get out, or we are opening up to a dialogue of us asking the questions that we need to ask in order to gain as much information as possible in order to make an informed and educated decision about the plan and the strategy that we're trying to put together to actually move forward. Now, here's where things get interesting. You've heard me talk about this in the ascension forecast for this week. You should have heard me talk about this in the June energy intro that I put out there at the beginning of the month. This is when Jupiter, the planet of growth, expansion, belief, abundance, and blessing, sextiles beautiful energy, harmonizing with Saturn. Saturn, of course, the Lord of Karma, who just went retrograde in this Pisces energy. This is a one-off aspect. This is a beautiful energy. And what we get here today, and again, may I remind you, this doesn't just happen today and then it's over. This is an aspect that, again, I'm going to use the analogy. If there were a bunch of safes, right, that we had to kind of twist all the knobs and reach that perfect type of click before all the safe doors can open, we just heard the click. Now, we haven't even opened the door yet. We've just heard the click. So there's still time for all of this energy to actually manifest. So if nothing magical happens to you today, don't fret. We just opened the door to the safe. We haven't unleashed what is in the safe as of yet. So let me just backtrack. What this is going to do is it's going to give us a lot of opportunities to actually take us a step forward. Now, that doesn't mean that we have the full grand scheme plan all sorted out, nor the details in it. But what we do know is that we are in motion, either in motion of creating distance away from some of the situations and circumstances that we've identified, that we've outgrown, that we're no longer attached to, or that we are in motion in pursuit of something. Now, not very many of us have that vision, have that clarity, have that goal set up as of yet. Again, the new moon in Gemini has been more about what it is that we need to get away from, more so than it is what it is that we want to gain distance and proximity to. Whichever kind of road or path that you're on, we're in motion. We are understanding that right now there is a lot of potential for us to create something new, a lot of potential for us to manifest a brand new reality, different opportunities, especially where money matters and relationships are concerned. But in the realization of the potential of the opportunities that we have before us, we equally realize the obstacles, the challenges, the blockages, the pitfalls. So what we're doing here is we're still weighing the pros and cons. We're in Gemini season. This is what Gemini season has been about, is seeing the dualistic, polarized options and trying to debate the pros and cons in order to find a common middle ground. What this does is it piques our discernment just a tad. It helps us to understand the cycle that we're in, what it is that we either A, need to move away from, or B, need to move closer to. And in that, seeing the potential blockages and challenges and pitfalls, we're coming up with a different strategy. Now, that's not a bad thing. Because Saturn is the Lord of Karma and he's kind of like the militant grandfather, he's giving us a little bit of a reality check, which we need with Jupiter's energy, because Jupiter's energy is the hype girl of the zodiac, tends to bite off more than he can chew, okay? Tends to dream too big of a dream and then sets us up for disappointment and failure because we're never able to reach the kind of goals that Jupiter wants to set for us. So Saturn, in this particular aspect, is a good reality check because we need to be logical and practical and realistic with our judgment, with our thoughts, with our feelings, with our plan, with our strategy. And we are starting small, which many of us hesitate to do. Did you ever realize that if you focus on a big goal and you really want that goal and you see the big picture of it, that it becomes so overwhelming that you actually end up in a state of paralysis and then you do nothing and you take no action and therefore you never gain any momentum towards the vision, the goal, the dream that you are trying to manifest? That's because people don't want to do the work. They don't want to do the small, nitty-gritty, detailed work that requires you each and every single day to choose the small little habits and behaviors that you need to incorporate on a day-to-day basis. Because again, may I remind you that what you focus on, what you allow to take space up in your head, what you put action towards in your day-to-day life is what equals up the greater, grander whole. So if you have a big dream, big vision, big goal, the first thing that you should do is break it down into small, manageable pieces. This is what this particular energy is providing us with. A good idea of what the great, big, grand vision is, and then a really good approach to starting on the smallest basis that you could possibly start at. We need to find a balance between the great, big, grand vision and the small actions and details that are going to make up the greater, grander whole. And this is also because Jupiter is in Taurus energy and Earth energy, because Saturn is retrograde, which is a reflection, a reorganization, a restructuring of our roles, of our responsibilities, of our life lessons, of our karma, of the path and direction that we're currently taking. What we're also finding here is a good balance between planning and kind of discovering on our own. Again, when man plans, God laughs. You can only plan so much. You do have to open up the door to having wild card energies, new discoveries, new circumstances be thrown at you that you didn't factor into your plan, into your strategy. You have to open the door to the magical construct of the universe, of the wild card, unexpected energies that always throw a wrench in the plans in which man makes. So we do have to find a good balance between, yes, having a plan, having a strategy, but also being fluid, open, receptive enough to kind of wing it and kind of discover as we're going along what we need to do at a certain stage of accomplishment. So there is a lot of growth taking place here. And again, it's no coincidence that this is happening right before the solstice. This is a time, because we're in Gemini season, Mercury's in Gemini, we just had the new moon in Gemini, where our mind space is wide open. We are craving information, craving just all kinds of different knowledge that we can kind of pluck and kind of formulate a plan, a vision, a dream out of it. And so, this is why our headspace is all over the place. But this is the time to be asking the right questions, to be diving in and really following your curiosity, being on that plan of exploration and discovery while still sticking and adhering to a plan based off of practical, logical action. So there's a lot going on there. So this is a one-time aspect, which is a little bit weird all in itself. And again, we just heard the click of the safe. We haven't even opened the door yet. Over the next couple of weeks, we will slowly be opening the door and seeing what kind of treasures lay in that safe. And of course, that is the opportunity for us to build and for us to grow. So things get a little tiny bit sticky when Mercury goes ahead and interacts with Pluto. Pluto, of course, the great transformer himself, is retrograde back in this Capricorn energy that we were all too happy to get rid of back in March. This is the reason why we're feeling the weight of the world on our shoulders, why we're back in this depressive, negative Nancy funk, because we have some work to do. We thought we were done. We thought we were over it. We're tired of this experience. We just want to move on. Now, Mercury, who is interacting with Pluto in this way, is definitely going to bring a challenge to our thoughts, to the processing of our thoughts, to the articulation of our thoughts and our ideas, and definitely pressurizing and cluster effing our communication styles. So as if the confusion wasn't enough with the Neptune aspect that, was very prominent under this new moon in Gemini, now we're having some intense blockages in our deepest thought process. Now, again, we need to have this cluster F. We need to have this challenge. We need to have this confusion prior to the breakthrough coming. Now, again, doesn't feel good, but it's a necessary component. Venus will then go ahead and interact with Neptune. So this is why I talk about the level of confusion now affecting our heart space. What we thought we were aligned with, we might not be aligned with anymore. What we thought we craved as far as passion, desire goes, we might not be attracted to anymore. The Neptune energy, although is very intuitive, although is supposed to be providing us with insights, also brings a level of confusion that we're still kind of lingering under because of the aspects made under the new moon. If you need to listen to that astro forecast or refer back to the moon guide to understand what we're talking about here, go ahead and do that. But the confusion is still at an all-time high for good reason. The moon is then going to interact with Mars. So the moon in Cancer, Mars, of course, just spent a ton of time in Cancer energy that we were just happy to get out of. Mars, being in this Leo energy, wants to take action, wants to be bold, wants to be brave, wants to truly express himself, wants to be inspired, wants to be motivated, wants to actually see action take place in the physical realm so that we can start moving forward. But again, that moon in Cancer is like, no, I'm not ready yet. I just need to stick to what is tried, tested, and true. I need to stick to what is comfortable and familiar. I can't move out into foreign territory right now. I'm not safe or secure or stable enough to do this. So obviously this is going to bring up some anger, some frustration, because there is a part of it that just wants us to move so fast and moving forward to close the door on this particular chapter of our lives for good. But this moon in Cancer needs us to sit in the funk and really process it so that we don't have this residual energy coming back in a month's time when we've actually made some action and progress and then totally knock us down a couple of pegs because we refuse to heal what it is that we refuse to heal at this particular point in the calendar. The moon will then interact with Jupiter in a very positive way. So now we're starting to see, you know what? It's not so bad in this present moment thinking about the future, which again, the moon in Cancer does not want to do. The Jupiter energy is bringing a lot of optimism, a lot of confidence into the realm of our emotions. We are building ourselves up emotionally speaking in order to feel safe and secure and stable amongst all the craziness and chaos going on in our circumstances. And Jupiter is just here to show us where it is that there is a huge opportunity for growth, to sit in the funk, to sit in the feels, to understand what it is that we need to sort through and process right now to avoid this particular energy coming back and kicking our ass in a couple of months' time when we finally get situated in the situation and circumstance that we're currently wanting to fast forward to. The last aspect that we have here today is the moon in Cancer squaring, getting into the boxing ring with Chiron, the wounded healer. And just when we have that little oomph in positivity, oomph in optimism, oomph in confidence from Jupiter, this is going to bring us down a couple of pegs. Suddenly our egoic programming is kicking in. We are recognizing where it is that our spiritual selves trying to kind of get us in the position to take action to move forward. And of course, that's the last thing that the egoic programming wants us to do. Why is that, you may ask? Well, because our egoic programming is built with a program for our physical survival. And moving into foreign territory where you don't know what to expect does not scream safety, security, and stability. What happens is just when the soul and the spirit are ready to kind of push us to make a change, to elevate, to evolve, the egoic program kicks in and says, whoa, that's not safe. Maybe we should just sit in these miserable circumstances because as uncomfortable as they may be, they're predictable. And we know the certain level of danger. We know where it is that we're not safe in our current circumstances. We have no clue what awaits us in this new foreign territory that our soul and spirit wants us to travel in. So here we we get the egoic programming kicking in saying, oh, whoa, I know you're kind of ready to make a change here, but we don't know what's out there. Maybe you should just kind of settle. Maybe you should kind of lie, delude yourself. And this is where the romanticizing comes in. Maybe you should kind of talk yourself into these, being comfortable in this current uncomfortable circumstance, because at least we know the dangers. At least we know what we're getting here in this circumstance. We don't know what we're getting when we push forward, when we dive into something new. So Chiron, being the wounded healer, is bringing up all of our fears, all of our doubts, all of our insecurities. This is the way the egoic program works in order to kind of knock the wind out of our sails for hope and change and transformation and moving forward, and kind of paralyze us in the here and now with the fears, doubts, and insecurities so that we don't make a change, and that our ego can win by keeping us in the same state of, let's say, uncomfortability that we're currently in.